I'm ready to go. All right. Well, it is an honor. Thank you very much, Omri. We are going to get to it. Dr. Mari Ross Alexander from the Ross Behavioral Group, the Ross Center, the Ross Awesome, the doggone it, the Bomb Biggity. If you old school, y'all know what the Bomb Biggity is. If you new school and you don't know what that is, look, get a hip hop album. Get a real album. Don't iTunes album. Go get the vinyl. It is an absolute honor and pleasure to be in the same space, not having people steal my seats at the Black Student Athlete Summit while we're trying to sit next to Dr. Ross Alexander. It's an honor to have you here to speak with you for a few minutes. We appreciate your time. How are you?
I am beautiful, and it's an honor to be asked to be here and to even just be here with the state of our world.
Whew, you know what? You are absolutely right. It is the state of our world it's absolutely interesting. And I think one thing that I've learned, or not learned, but one thing that I've thought of consistently over the past COVID-19 situation and all of the violence that we see on social media and television and the jargon and the rhetoric is I'm reminded that there is nothing new under the sun.
Not anything.
And for all of the advancements that we have made, I will acknowledge that.
Yeah. You know, I was reading something on, I don't know where I was at. Oh, I think it might have been Twitter. Mm-hmm. And they were talking, you know, as soon as this whole corona thing started happening, I'm a history buff. I love biographies and all these other fun stuff. So anyway, I have been reading about the flu of 1812 for a while, the Spanish flu. Mm-hmm. And, you know, how the Great Depression happened right after that, you know, because of loss of jobs and all this other stuff. So I was like, okay, here we are, you know, I see these things unfolding very similar to the pandemic back then. And when I was looking at Twitter the other day, someone mentioned the Red Summer. And I don't know if you've heard about that, but the Red Summer was basically this uprising of Black people right after the pandemic. And they were getting killed in the streets in the summer. That's why they call it the Red Summer. Right. And here we are. You know, we got the flu. We got the, you know, we're in the same place as the Great Depression back in the 20s. Mm-hmm. And we have Black people dying. The Black blood is starting to run in the streets.
Spill it.
So you're right. History does repeat itself, and we, you know, we have to get smart enough to actually listen to the history and let it inform us on what we need to do next.
Right. Absolutely. I remember when I was a kid, my grandparents, and I know it was a huge thing. They said, if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it. Well, I think we knew, and we still ain't. Just happened.
No, I think we knew. I think we have the ability to have the knowledge now, right? Mm-hmm. So before, you have to really search for the history. Right. Now it's really at our fingertips. And I think because we have so much information, we don't know what to really look for, what to really hold on to.
Right. Yeah.
They're like diluting, I shouldn't say that because that implies something, but there is a concerted effort to dilute the information.
Right. Absolutely. Dilute it. And then if you get, I always tell my students, because I teach AP language and composition. So we analyze rhetoric, right? Mm-hmm. So like my last assignment for my students this year is to take social media posts concerning George Floyd and anything connected to it. And they have to synthesize them and analyze them individually to decide and decipher what message is really being sent. You know, and I think that you're absolutely correct. But I think a part of it is if you inundate someone with information, they'll miss a whole lot of things. Like you remember, I mean, y'all know we in the same bracket of time. So you are well versed in the Compton's Encyclopedia and the Encyclopedia Britannica. And yes. You know, when you were like well off if you had those things in your house, right? You were fancy.
Yeah. Guess what? I used to read the encyclopedia because that's how much of a nerd I was.
Hey, yes, absolutely. I remember when we had the used Compton's encyclopedia, and I thought we were fancy. But I remember when we transitioned, Britannica put out the navy blue leather bound inside. Oh, because I used to have to go to the library. You know, that's when you could ride across town on your bike.
Right.
You know, the stranger danger, you know, it'd be 100 people come out and whoop somebody.
Right.
You know, now they just videotape you getting beat up, you know.
And somebody sees it, yeah.
So, but I think you're right. It's like it's at the fingertips, and it's all about the scroll now. And sometimes if you swipe that thumb too fast, you might miss about 15 good stories.
Right. It's the art of misinformation, right?
Right. Yes.
So
Yeah.
information is to give you a whole bunch of information, and some of it has a little bit of truth,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
It's, if you don't dig deep enough or listen, like you said, look at the rhetoric. What are they really trying to say?
Mm-hmm.
Then you get lost in the sauce, as they say.
Oh, way lost, way lost. I heard something about Zuckerberg he made like $31.4 billion or something like that during this pandemic or whatever. You know, more props to you. Get your money, man. But then I heard where he said something related to he didn't feel like any type of obligation for truth.
No.
And you had to, like, truth was something that was almost like negotiable or optional. And I'm thinking, well, wow, if who gets to say that?
when we started not calling a lie,
Right.
we were already down that path. When we
Right.
already said it doesn't have to be true.
Right.
To be said, even if I can validate it's not true, it's okay to still be said. I mean, you have, again, the art of, misinformation, same thing as the art of confusion.
Right. And I
I
know,
don't,
yeah. Tell it
kids
again.
don't know what to believe.
No, and it's hard. I get confused myself, and I think I'm a fairly intelligent person. I've stayed at a few Holiday Inns in my life.
Right. With the light on.
You know, but how in the world, how are you supposed to not be anxious? And I know you deal in these things, so we're going to dive into what it is you do, and specifically, so in the context of the COVID-19 and misinformation and all of the mental health battles that take place, how are the times affecting your industry of work? If you don't mind telling us a story or telling us about how you got to where you are, and then talk about how these things are affecting you.
Okay. Well, we don't have enough time to talk about how I got here. I will say that I started off with a heart from helping Black boys. It's always been my mission. From a little girl, and part of that was because I was one of the oldest grandchildren that my grandparents had, and all my cousins were boys. The ones that are older than me were boys, and the ones younger than me were boys. So I grew up with a whole bunch of boys, and I thought I was a boy. I thought I was a boy with a dress. I always liked dresses. I was a girly girl, but I kick rocks and race my cousins in my dress. My mother she missed protocol. She was so upset because I would come home filthy dirty, but I would be cute. I was a cute, filthy dirty, right?
Right.
And so anyway, I slowly saw, as I was growing up, my cousins get into these lifestyles that were just very challenging. Saw them spend lots of time in jail and prison. A couple of them died. Obviously, that's kind of what we do. We're either in prison, jail, or at school. Our Black boys,
right,
and more in prison, jail. I mean, prison or dead than they are in school.
Right.
That was my growing up, and I was a daddy's girl too. So my daddy had 3 girls, and he was not a girl dad. He was a dad of girls. So you had to, watch NASCAR, and you had to learn how to work on cars and watch boxing. And he was in boxing very heavily. So I grew up, in these kind of masculine sports with a dad that I loved sitting next to. I was the oldest child, and so I just grew up with a real heart for men. And my dad is a very tough, rough man, but yet would cry at a heartbeat. Like his girls came in and he was proud of them, and you see the tear fall down his face. It was just this kind of, I don't know, it was just something about it. So anyway, got into law thinking that that's how I was going to save my Black boys, because I saw them all going to jail. So I'm like, okay, well, become a defense attorney and defend them, and slowly, quickly, fastly found out that the system was stacked to not ever be fair
Right.
to our Black boys. And that's who you saw in courthouses all day long, every
Yeah.
day. I mean, I worked in a courthouse, and literally from the moment it opened to the moment it closed, all I saw was Black people. And I was in a population that was less than 10% was African American. So it just made no sense to me.
Right.
So I figured out that that was not the way to help my Black people. I went to my boss and said, hey, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. This is not it.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, well, and so I told her I quit. And she said, well, we actually help you pay for school. So you either give us our money back or you figure out how to go back in that courthouse.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, well, I really don't want to do either one of those. So is there anything else I can do? So she gave me a DSM, which is a diagnostic tool for therapists.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And she said, you know, and she was a Black woman, and I was in Arizona, so of all places. And so she said, you know, this is the interesting thing. You will find almost everybody that you go interview in that jailhouse in this book.
Ooh. Ooh.
So I went, took this book, and they tell me their story, and I look up this criteria. I'm like, oh, they got this. Oh, they got that. And I started understanding why or how they got to where they were.
Right.
You know, and so once I figured that out, I figured out the way to affect change was not to defend them once they got there, but to help to prevent them from getting there.
Right.
And we could figure out these social ills that cause these kind of disorders, that maybe that would be the way.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I went back to school for 1,000 years and became what I am today, which is behavioral health specialist is what I call myself anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And really deal with the mental and emotional hurts, harms, and hangups that people tend to live with or try to live with that causes dysfunctional behavior.
Yeah. Whoo, so I know you're busy. I know you're busy.
Yeah. So yeah, second part of your question, COVID. COVID hasn't really changed much for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've been doing telemed for years now, so this is nothing new. I try to stay, you know, I think I told you, I study people, right? And I try to analyze societies and communities and cultures, and I try to shift and manage to morph myself into whatever's needed at that moment in time. And so I deal with student athletes, and my athletes have been screen babies for all their life. You know, so they've been on the screen. They don't know what it's like to not have a phone in their pocket from 8, 9, 10 years old. So about 5 or 6 years ago, I started seeing that my athletes would rather talk to me on the phone and be in the same room than to talk to me face to face in the same room. So, I mean, that's just what they were so used to, right? They talk to their friends that way. They talk to their parents that way. You know, besides sitting in a classroom, and half of them are behind a screen. Even there, they have their laptops up, and they're not really eye to eye with their instructor. So I started morphing into telemed, but like I said, about 5 or 6 years ago, and have seen lots of my student athletes because I'm stationed in one city, and they're all over the place. Being telemed. So for me, COVID hasn't really changed a whole lot in that aspect. What I'm seeing though with my clients is a lot of anxiety, you know, which is really normal because this is the unknown. We have no idea what's next. And it happens so suddenly. So the anxiety level for most of my clients is pretty high right now. And then the other thing that I'm seeing a lot is that people are at home. So one thing I've always seen with student athletes is that freshman year, like all students that come to college, is a rough year. It's a transition year, right? It's the first time that my athletes, for sure, have sat alone by themselves without people that they've known for all their life, type of thing, right?
Right.
And they have this sport, and they're isolated, and they're trying to make a team, and all these other people have been here, and all this other stuff, and they're away from home.
Right.
So those young people tend to have some significant flooding of emotions, flooding of things they thought they didn't even know where they were bothering them. They kind of fall apart a little bit during their freshman year because all this stuff comes flooding out and they don't understand how to process it. So what I'm seeing with my clients, whether they be athletes or not, is that people are really sitting in silence, like it's quiet. And when it's quiet, you get to hear yourself think.
Right.
And if your thoughts have not been good thoughts and you've been able to distract yourself with work or driving to work or sports or whatever, you didn't even realize all these thoughts were actually happening.
Right.
People sitting in their mess at
Mm-hmm.
home. And they're trying to figure out, why do I feel so bad? Why am I feeling so lethargic? Why do I lack motivation? All these types of things that are happening because people are at home with themselves, right?
Right.
They have to actually deal with themselves instead of putting that out on somebody else when they're out in the world. So those are, that's how COVID really is affecting me. It's really more my clients are more state of awareness, crisis, anxiety, that type of thing. But as far as the practice, it's not very new for me.
Not okay. Well, that's and that's pretty cool that you were already positioned in the telemed world and to be able to handle what I would imagine would be kind of like an onslaught in some regards, especially since, like you said, now in that silence you get to have that conversation with the person you've talked to every day for your whole life, right? Your longest conversation is, with yourself. And so
most likely it wasn't a positive one. You just didn't realize it was so negative,
Right. Now you're like, well, why are you thinking like that?
Right.
And you're standing in the mirror like, I don't know why you and I'm not trying to make light of it. I just think that that's absolutely amazing that you said that. You just kind of, there's nobody here.
There's nobody here, right? I have to sit with my own thoughts. I mean, it's why people don't like silence a lot of times.
Right.
Because whatever was rolling around their head, when I try to teach people to meditate, and it's really difficult for them to meditate because as soon as it's quiet, they start thinking of all the things they need to do. I do this, and I need to do that, and what about that? And they don't realize all those thoughts have always been going on. It's not because of meditation. Meditation didn't create that. It's that it's quiet enough for you to hear it.
Right. And I think this year as a high school teacher, this was one of the first years this year specifically was one of the roughest years I've ever had in terms of trying to get my students to read silently.
Oh, yeah.
Because they just kind of looked at me. They're like, can I wear my headphones? Well, how are you reading
with headphones
and listening to the Migos? Like, what you doing? Oh yeah, but it just calms me down. And I'm like, what? But you're not reading.
But you're not comprehending. You might be reading, comprehending, right?
Right, zero comprehension. But I think that you just said it. It's the silence, and I remember there was like this old saying that silence can be deafening sometimes, and I never really quite understood that until like as well as I do now.
Right.
Like,
right.
Yeah, like how could silence be deafening? Because you never shut up, right?
You never shut up, right?
Right. So now let me ask you this: in this specific context, now we've got we're watching live executions on social media, and I know there's going to be people that'll be upset with me saying that, but I'm gonna just call it what it is. A spade is a spade. A knee, you vilify one for a knee, and and we don't vilify another. But I think you got arrested today. So, shout out for the
rebellion that led to that.
Right. I'm sorry the city had to burn to get you to lock. But so now how do you, if at all, have you seen that been an uptick in some of your calls or even if it hasn't, how do you, what kind of advice do you give people that are like for coaches or parents or even athletes as they go, like you're seeing these things take place and now you're talking about transitioning college athletes, specifically these football players and basketball players, which happen to be predominantly people of color, Black people and African Americans, whichever terms you want to use. What advice do you have on dealing with that as they return?
So, one thing that I stress to my athletes and my coaches, probably even more than that, is that acknowledgement is very powerful. So when we start ignoring things, then I get to internalize your silence. I get to internalize that. Like,
right.
Care? Do you not care? And so then as soon as those questions come up, then there's trust issues and there's accountability issues. And if you're talking about building a team culture, those are the things that are team killers.
Right.
So what I advise is to have some authentic conversations. You don't have to say, so how do you feel about George Floyd?
Right.
Say, has what's going on in the world impacted you?
Mm-hmm.
Let them answer. Or how has it impacted you? And they may say it hasn't. It's probably a
Mm-hmm.
lie. Or they're not fully aware of the impact
True.
yet.
True.
Or they may say, Coach, thank you for asking. Like, I'm struggling. I'm really, really struggling.
Mm-hmm.
So as adults, the adults of these student athletes, it's our job to make sure that we're checking in with them to see if they're okay and not being afraid of those conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Whether I'm white, black, purple, or green, it's still impactful.
Right. Right.
So, I also advise turning off the TV. Like, do not watch this stuff.
Right.
Right? I mean, yes, we have to know what happened, but you don't need to be a witness to what happened.
Right.
There's a whole thing called vicarious trauma that could be inflicted on somebody, meaning that I didn't experience the trauma, but I was traumatized by watching your trauma.
Right. Right.
And that's just as real as being traumatized yourself. So PTSD is very real, even if you've never experienced the war.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, protecting our minds, protecting our hearts, that's heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm.
It's really important. So, stepping away from social media, but yet still being knowledgeable about what's happening. But as far as advice, it is definitely that acknowledgement piece.
Right.
How is this impacting you? Letting there be space and room to talk about it.
Right, right, absolutely. And I thank you for saying that, because I know, one of the conversations I was having yesterday in regards to athletes returning to campus is, we hear a lot of publicized conversations about the social distancing and how they're going to train athletes, how they're going to, check their temperatures, and everybody's going to get the testing and so on and so forth. But I have yet, and I know there's several conversations that are now taking place. I know Dr. Gill, Emily Gill, was doing he did a webinar last night on, some suggestions for the mental health services that need to be provided for student athletes of all walks. And obviously in particular of people, impacted in those communities and in groups, obviously, African-American athletes are seeing these things, and there's a large cry. But anyway, so we see these things we see them take place, and they're talking about, well, the athletes need to be 2 yards apart, and they got this whole plan. But I haven't heard the first thing in terms of how we're going to address what they've gone through. We've called this the most unprecedented time and everything else like that. We use all of the, the rhetoric and the jargon and hyperbole, and it's true. It's unprecedented in some context. But like you said, in 1918, people wore masks to football games.
Right. This is not new.
It's not new, right? There was a plan in place, or there were some actions taken after Katrina, and there was a lot of people that died. And so I'm just wondering, I understand that we can't see the virus versus you can see a flood, but treating people right and checking on their welfare seems to be a back burner at all points.
And it always has been. So again, that's not new either. So we've always, regardless of how we feel about the NCAA or whatever, always had rules and regs around their physical health.
Right.
Safety. The mental safety and the mental health has been relatively new.
Right.
Came out with some best practices in 2018, 19. So this is 2 years ago.
2 years.
And even then, it's best practices. There's no requirements. There's no mandate that you have to do certain things.
Right.
So, always worried about their bodies, and we rarely have worried about their minds. So I'm not really surprised by that. And it takes people that do what I do to sound the alarms, because the people who don't get it anyway. Like, they don't even understand.
Right.
I've had 3 basketball girls reach out to me today, just saying, hey, Dr. Martin, can we talk? I know what that's about. I had a track athlete who just finished her season. Finished her education, reach out to me a couple days ago. She's having family of origin issues. She's been home too long. She's never been home this long in all of her career.
Oh, wow.
She's played, she's a track and field athlete. So track and field's still going in the summer.
Right.
So she's home for a couple weeks, and then she's right back at school.
Right.
The first time she's been home for 3 months in 4 years, and she left home for a reason.
Yeah, exactly.
It went far from home for a reason.
Far.
far, you know, and so, you know, it takes people like me who know those stories, who sit with the athletes, who can say to coaches, hey, coach, you really need to be concerned about your players. They're not over at home just watching video games.
Right.
You know, that's not what's occurring. Half of them have become the second parent to their siblings that they didn't have to worry about when they were at school, or they had to go get a job to help because mama just lost hers.
Right.
You know,
Right.
or they're not able to be with their grandparents because grandparents can't be around them with this whole this COVID thing. You know, so we have lots of student athletes that are dealing with life issues beyond anxiety and not knowing if they're going to be able to play again and not knowing what's going to happen and fear the unknown stuff. So again, but most people don't get those intimate details like I do, or like other professionals like me. So really, the onus is on us to sound the alarms and sound the bells and say, hey, you have got to make sure that these kids are okay, because they're not just, like I said, sitting at home playing video games, enjoying their time off.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm glad you said that, because one of the things that I've heard a lot of mental health professionals, clinicians, practitioners say out of the gate was, we gotta start being proactive in this time, because you have a lot of athletes, like you just mentioned. There's a reason you recruited some of these people. And not all of it was, you know, connected to the talent, but it was also some of those experiences that they were fleeing, because that was kind of that was a motivating factor for them to perform well, because they didn't want to go back home.
Right.
And so now they're back home and dealing with that. And so will you talk about a little bit about, and I know this is deeply connected to what you do. I know you do a lot of work with coaches in terms of how you do some analysis of athletes before they come on the campus. Will you talk about those types of relationships and some of that work with what you do with Ross?
So, you know, of course, I always have to plug my most favorite school. I get in trouble all the time because this is my most favorite. It is Campbell University.
Absolutely.
Coach Minner. And what he's allowed me to do and to learn. You know, we learn a lot in school about what we do, right? And then you go try to apply it and none of it works. You're like, wait a minute, this doesn't work how the book said it was going to.
Right.
And so he's given me a platform and a place to actually hone this particular part of the craft. And so in this pre-assessment, which the NCAA asks that schools do a pre-assessment of athletes. Part of that pre-assessment is physical, majority of it.
Right.
And there's 9, 8, 10 questions here or there about their mental health that nobody usually really pays attention to, as long as it's not saying title, right? That's the only thing they care about. So in the last 8 years with Mint, I've been able to actually develop a comprehensive assessment. It's all about psychosocial, meaning their mental, emotional, physical well-being.
Right.
So I give them a survey. It's about 120 questions long. They really love those 120 questions.
Yep.
It's virtual, so they do it, you know, on their own time, wherever they are. You know, it is not time sensitive. They could take 3 weeks or do it in 20 minutes, whatever. Once I get those back, I vet those and see if there's anything that stands out to me. And I'm looking at really 5 different areas of their life: their personality, their family of origin, where do they come from, their emotional grounding, their spiritual grounding, how they learn. You know, are they a kinesthetic learner, auditorial learner? You know, how does that happen? And then I pull all those together to kind of give me this picture of the athlete. And then I do a small little clinical interview, 10 minutes of their time, where I just kind of flesh through what they've answered. You know, give me, and then I come up with, okay, this is who this kid is. I don't give it to. I usually do this during recruitment, so this is way before they get on campus. And so once the kid signs with the team, then I help the coaches understand who the player is. I don't give them the information. I just kind of help them understand, okay, so you got Johnny's orange. You know, we do this color. So orange means he's going to be more of the impulsive type. You know, usually my DBs are that way, which is good because they take chances. They take risks. They calculate risk. How do we hone that in when they're out socially with their friends? Right. You know, how do we kind of make sure they make really good choices even though they like to be spontaneous? Right. And so I help translate really who this player is to the coach. and I also help the coach translate who he is to the player, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of marry these two people and say, okay, this is how you work, this is how you work, this is how we can work together.
Right.
And so, but in that assessment, of course, the coaches just want to know how does the kid work. That's it, right?
Right.
For the most part. But for me, it helps me understand where does the kid need to develop. What parts of him do I need to pay attention to? So if there's an origin issue before they ever get on campus, it didn't go away because they moved on campus.
Right. Yes.
Right. So then we get to, do some family work, help them understand how to communicate to their family, whatever that is. And so I'm in the business of building a better human being, not a better athlete.
Right.
Let the coaches build better athletes. I'm building a better human being. And I do that with this pre-assessment because the pre-assessment gives me contact with an athlete before they get on campus, but it also gives the athlete knowledge of who the behavioral health person is. And it's not this scary person I got to talk to when I'm crazy.
Right. Yes. Keep going. Yes. Please keep going on that.
So we just have, we have this ongoing conversation. So I develop a relationship with them starting in January, in football anyway, November, December, January is when I get to, talk to these kids, and they come to campus in August. But by the time August has come around, we've had 4, 5, 6 conversations. I'm just Dr. Mari now, right? I'm Dr. Mari, one of the coaches. I just coach something different. And they're really open to moving themselves to these places that I've seen as kind of maybe the weaker spots or the missing holes in their story. So that's what my pre-assessment is. It's, it's comprehensive. It takes quite a bit of time, but it's well worth it when I know how to make sure this athlete's going to be successful.
Right. Now you mentioned something in there when you talked about pairing the athlete and the coach. Now, do you, how well, I guess I don't want to say how well, but how do you see the benefits, or what are the benefits you see of doing that in terms of helping the coach understand where he fits with an athlete, or how to even engage in those conversations? Because I know a lot of times, you have the coach says, well, I'm old school, and this is just what it's going to be, I
say, well, go get some old school players. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. You need to get some players that are 40, 50 years old, so they can think like you. So one is that, I've gotten a little older in my life, and older, your filter kind of leaves. I'm very respectful, but I say what I have to say.
Right.
So I hire coaches more than they hire me. And so if a coach is not willing to make the changes that are necessary to fit these kids, that doesn't mean become the kid's friend. That's not what I'm saying. Just like I told you earlier, is that I saw this trend where kids were not coming into the office, but they call me in the next room.
Right.
I can say, no, old school says you got to come in this room, sit in this room with me and talk to me. Or I could say, you know what? I can fight that fight, or I can just get with the program and get the kid on the phone and actually get further faster than trying to do it my way, my old way.
Right.
So I really only work with coaches that are willing to make the necessary changes. But I also hear at the end of the day, the coach is my boss, right? So I'm also hearing what the coach wants, and I'm directing them and guiding them on how to get that the best way with these athletes. So usually I have a lot of buy-in from the coaches. Okay, good. And I keep it real. I just say what I got to say. And I'm like, hey, coach, we can do that, but let me tell you why it's not going to work. Right. Or we can try this, and if it works, let's keep doing it. If it doesn't, we'll throw it out, and I'll get you something else. Right. And so, again, I hire coaches as much as they hire me. They see the benefit. Coach Mint is usually very complimentary, except for when I make them mad, about what we have been able to create and what we've done. And he sees the benefits of it. Right. So just as much as I'm developing my players, a lot of times I spend time developing my coaches to be the coach that the players need. Right. And yes, so and I think that is just so fascinating, because I know a lot of time what I've encountered as a coach on the secondary level, obviously I haven't coached, college or the NFL, but a lot of times what I've encountered on the secondary level is like this resistance to
to change. And I'm not, I guess, I know KRS-One says if you want to change, you want to use a different word for revolution, you just call it change, right? But it's,
revolution. It takes that much of a mindset to change yourself. It has to be a whole, paradigm shift.
Right, a whole shift. And so, but I notice when I've been in different spaces, and it's obviously not everybody, and I'm not, casting any aspersions. I'm just saying what it is. My filter is thinning as well, just a little. But what I've noticed is in that resistance, I've seen just so many unnecessary conflicts, and I'm thinking, man, you could have just said, look, man, this is what we need. This is how we're going to get this done, and I think one of the greatest barriers to, I guess, the old school and the new school now is having to explain the why.
Right. Well, so again, history, right? The great coaches, the Phil Jacksons and the guy in New England, Belichick.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys do explain.
Mm-hmm.
They absolutely explain the why.
Mm-hmm.
Their standards don't change.
Right.
They still want this.
Right.
But they'll tell you why we're doing what we're doing. They have no problem with that vulnerability. They don't have this ego that says, you'd have to follow my rules without knowing who I am.
Right.
Popovich, same kind of guy. If you look at the coaches who are highly successful, not anybody can win a championship because that's luck of the draw.
Right.
Very special coaches win dynasties or create dynasties.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So the guys who create the dynasties, those are the guys that really are very relational people. So people don't see Belichick as a relational guy. Mm-hmm. He's not when you're not on his team.
Right.
So no, he ain't got no time for you.
No, right? I ain't talking to you.
He ain't talking to you. Like, waste of time. Talk about a waste of time. He's like, why would I spend time talking to you? You're not going to help me win no dynasty.
Right.
But the guys that are in the field house, now he spends all of his time nurturing, guiding, teaching. He's a little rougher and gruffer than I am. Delivery is different, but it's the same thing. I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to tell you what else not going to work. We're going to work together to make sure we're on the same page, and then we're going to go execute well.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So it is those. So the coaches that don't do that, they're thinking that if I work I'm a Twitter person, so I retweeted somebody saying that you putting a whole lot of hours in as a coach doesn't make you a winner. It's not that doesn't do anything. Right. A lot of times you waste a whole lot of time doing a whole bunch of nothing. Right. Productivity is what makes you win. How productive you are, and you can do that in 3-4 hours, and you don't have to be sleeping on the couch. I know some coaches that literally sleep on their couch and don't go home. Right. So it is this mindset that says that I'm here to win. I'm going to do what it takes to win, but winning's not the ideal. Nurturing the people who are going to win is the idea.
Right.
I have to get out of the way. My ego has to get out of the way. What I think needs to happen has to get out of the way. And I got to start looking at who I got here and how do I make the best out of those people? What do I need to do to get the best out of those people? That's what Phil Jackson did when he's with the Bulls and when he's with the Lakers. He had people say, how do I make that guy better than what he is today?
Right.
How do I make that guy follow my rules? He didn't say that.
Wasn't worried about that. He was passing out books. and based on his read.
I mean, it's like, but so again, so historically that's not necessarily true that coaches are just old school. This is the way it is.
Right.
Those are the ones that get the notoriety. The ones that are winning the dynasties are the ones that you don't know nothing about generally because they don't have time to talk to you about nothing. They don't have time to tell you who they are.
Right. They're not wasting time on that. Right. Yeah. They're not really writing books.
They're really not writing books, not too much. Phil Jackson wrote his after he retired, that type of thing.
Right.
When he was done winning, he said, let me go write this book.
Right, exactly. Yes, because he was busy reading them while he was coaching.
He was busy reading them.
Right.
And trying to figure out how to be better. How does he really not even be better, but how does he make them better, which means I have to make myself better. And the way he made himself better is by reading.
Right. Yes. And I think it's absolutely fascinating that happens because I think when I think about coaching, especially now, and it's been an evolution. I'm not trying to pretend like I was Phil Jackson as a young coach. I was doing all kind of wrong. And I, I admit that, but you evolve, hopefully, or you don't.
Hopefully.
Right. But if, when I think about what you said earlier about psychosocial, and I think that there needs to be more work and development, especially in the higher ed level, of how we're developing teachers, right? So like in the College of Education, with all the teachers that we're training in the pre-service programs in regards to the psychosocial development of students and human beings, right? Because I don't know, and I didn't go through a pre-service program, but I've spoken to a lot of teachers that have, and I work with a lot of them. And it's like you said earlier, you go through these programs and nothing in these books they give you prepares you for what meets you in the building. And so I wonder, why do they go through the program?
Well, I mean, so you're going to send me down a whole rabbit hole. We as human beings, maybe, I don't know, definitely as Americans, we have to measure. There's always something has to be measured. Somebody has to make you right.
Right.
And some of this is, I didn't become a therapist because I went to school. Right. I've always been a therapist and I figured it out. Right. I always have been this kind of intuitive person that could feel other people and solve problems that other people didn't necessarily know how to solve. Right. They seem like common sense to me, but to other people, not common. It's no different. Like me and Coach Mint, we talk a lot, right? And so one time he was sitting there talking to me about football, and I've been around football my whole life. Like, I love football. It's my sport, right? But I don't understand X's and O's. Right. Like, I don't even get that. Like,
no schematics.
Nah. Yeah, over here. And so he was trying to break something down for me. He's like, He's like, this, that, another. I was like, yeah, I got nothing. Like, I don't know, right? And so his ability to see the game and develop plays and develop these schemes is something I'll never have. Right. Help me understand what's happening on the field, right? And I can pay attention and see what's happening on the field, but I'll never be that person to make that happen. Right. And same thing with him and what I do. Right. I can think to him, oh yeah, that makes so much sense. Yeah, but he couldn't be the person that develops the treatment plan to get this person to the next place. Right? So I'm saying that all to say is that some of us, we have to find our gifting, right? And the world makes us get the credentials.
Right, instead of the work on the gift.
To fit our gifting. Right. And so that's my rabbit hole, that I'm like, if people would actually sit in their gifting, like what they are really created to do, and do that, right? I don't need Jackson to become a therapist. Like, no, be a coach. Teach people how to be a better coach. Let me do therapy. But what we like to do is, one, make you get the credentials to do what we say that you can do. That's one. And two, we want all people to do all things. Right. Right? So the teacher that went to the class that didn't get anything out of it might not be the person to be a teacher. Right? Yes. Who was going to get something out of it already had it in them. You just brought it out. Right. Yes. So when I went to school to become this particular part of, like, law, that wasn't my thing. I could do it. It wasn't my thing. Right. When I came over here, it was like, oh, yeah, that is the word for the thing I've been doing all my life. Right. Like, it gave me language to what I was already doing. Right. So when I'm trying to develop people, I'm also trying to develop that part of them. Like, I need you to get to know yourself so well that the job for you falls in your lap because it's the only thing you can do. Like, it is it. Right. So long way to say, why does this occur? Well, because somebody said that we got to have this education. And when my big mama was one of the best therapists I know, and she had great education. That's how that, Right. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Right. So, because systems say this is how you got to do it. Right. That's how we do it. Right. But like social for me is easy. Right. When I have to teach a psychosocial to a therapist, I always wonder if they should be a therapist. Right. Yes. Yes. So that's where I'm going with it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I always kind of question, like, this is not innate for you. This is not this. You're just not cut out for that.
Right.
But again, we're in a society, especially in America, where you can be who you want to be. So people say, well, I'm going to be this because I want to be this, not because I should be this.
Right. Yeah, I'm free, so I can make my choice. Right. Yeah.
So I can go be the world's worst attorney because I can be an attorney instead of saying, nope, guess what? That is not for me.
Right. You getting brothers locked up left and right.
Because I'm mad at the judge. I'm about, judge, you are stupid. Like, nah, that's probably not what you should say to the judge. It's probably not.
Yes. And you know, and I asked that question because sometimes I wonder, like, if, you know, like, why? You know, and then then you get people in the buildings and they're like, well, nah, this ain't for me. So then, like, why would we take their money to make them do that if that wasn't like really the thing? And I'm thinking maybe, and this probably sounds silly, but you know, to somebody, it makes sense to my mind. Why we don't spend more time, I guess, in more of like an interdisciplinary type of conversation, so that you can figure out where your gifting really is inside of the space that you have to, where we know that you have to have a degree to do X, Y, Z. But why do I need to get this specific thing when if I could get, you know, does that make sense?
Yes, because again, we have to measure people. Like, you can't let people just be like, so we used to, so old school, like you said, me and you a little bit on the other side.
Yeah.
And my mom and them even on the other side of that, right?
Yeah.
So back in the day in education, you know, it even changed with my sister who's 6 years younger than me. So somewhere between us, you know, vocational schools were big. And this kind of interdisciplinary education was big in high school. You know, like you had home ec and you had auto mechanic and you had all this stuff at school where you could start trying some things on to see what fit for you. What did you like?
Right.
You know, what you like tends to be your passion. You're moving that direction. You need to know a little bit more about it to see.
Right. Yeah.
Once we start taking that out of school, and school only became a conduit for college.
Right.
Like, all we're doing is teaching AP so you can go to college as a sophomore or junior. You don't even have to go to college anymore. You can go ahead and you already have the credits in high school. Right. You know, then we lost the ability for people just to understand themselves, just to try things on. So I have lots of athletes, in fact, that, you know, I become the career counselor too. And I'm like, what do you want to do, son? I don't know. Okay, you don't have to know. And I don't want you to know. I don't want you to know until you know. Okay. So what I want you to do for the next year of your life is really, I want you to take a class in everything you could possibly take a class in. And see what you spend time thinking about. Right. There's going to be a class that's going to pique your interest.
No doubt.
Right?
Run with it.
And you'll think it's because I like the professor. Oh, I like the professor. No, the professor brought something out that touched you. Right? So my point is that we don't spend enough time because we don't have a system. Again, me and my systems, we don't have a system in place that allows us to do that.
Right.
You know, I teach my young ladies, and this is probably gender, whatever. I'm never politically correct anymore. But
that's all right.
You know, genderism, sexism, whatever. But I tell young ladies, do not pick a mate. Please don't pick a mate until after you have finished college, if that's where you're going, and you spend one whole year, one calendar year by yourself. Because college is quasi-adulthood. It's not real adulthood. You still got people, real. Yeah. You know, people taking care of you.
People cooking for you.
You can have a roommate, but I want your roommate to not be your friend. I want it to be a real roommate, right? Somebody that you guys should share bills and share costs, right? Spend a whole year, 4 seasons, trying to figure out who you are. Do you like to get up early in the morning? Do you like to stay up late at night? Do you like to party? Do you like quiet? Do you like loud music? What do you like? Who are you after all the other stuff is gone? When it's quiet, again, it's quiet.
Right.
Now let's start talking about who you're going to mate, because now you know who you are, so you know who you should mate with.
Right. Yes. Yeah, I know that, yes.
My whole mission in life is to slow things down and quiet things enough for people to hear themselves, whether it be about who I'm going to mate with, what career I'm going to have, where I want to live in the world,
Right.
whatever. If you quiet yourself enough and you actually deal with what those voices come out as, you will know exactly where you're supposed to be.
Right. Right.
The world doesn't let things happen that way.
No, at all.
Right?
At all.
We rush through everything. We're rushing everybody through everything.
Right. Sprint.
Hurry up.
And now I think it's even worse with these things.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Because you're never off. So when iPhone first came out with the read, where you can read you can say if you read somebody's text.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
About 6 months after that came out, I started saying, why are all these, it was young women for the most part, why are all these young girls got this anxiety around relationships? Like, they ready to jump off a bridge because the boy didn't read the text. And I'm like, how do you even know he read the text? And so that's when they start telling me, because I'm oblivious sometimes, about this read. He left me on read for 20 minutes. Left you on read? What does that even mean?
Right.
And so they started showing me on the phone where they could see what time he read it.
Right.
And then they're analyzing why it took so long.
That's too much work. That's too much work.
And it built in this anxiety around the relationship because there was this thought process that if he really liked me, he'll respond right now.
Oh no, no. Bet not. That's too much.
6 months of people, I'm like, oh my gosh. So then what I started saying in therapy, logical to me, tell him to turn it off. And I need you to turn your read off too. Right. I need you to function like a regular human being where you're not constantly looking at your phone to see if somebody likes you based on how quickly they answered your text.
Right. Yes. Those likes.
The likes, all this. So it's a constant barrage of judgment.
Right.
Analysis instead of just being.
Right. Just.
Right? If I'm good with myself, you ain't got to text me for 2 days. Now I'm worried that something happened to you.
Yeah.
But it doesn't affect my value of myself because you decided not to text me for 2 days.
Right. That tells me something about you. That has nothing to do with me.
Right. Now, again, Mari will do that. Mari will go and not text somebody all day and maybe the next day. Right. Not on purpose, but if you read it like that, you'll think I just don't like you.
Right. Yes.
But if you knew what my life looked like, I'm probably on 5 different airplanes. Right. And by the time I got home, my phone was probably dead. And then I charged it. While I was charging, I fell asleep. And so the next morning, when it actually dings 15 times, I'm trying to figure out who do I need to text first.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
There's nothing about how I feel about you.
Right.
My kids get the same treatment that Boo Thing gets.
Right. Yeah.
It's all because how my life is scheduled has nothing to do with my relationship with you. So anyway, that's a long way to say that these phones and all these other things that we have create more of this space where we don't really know who we are. We're always kind of measuring who we are based on what somebody's response is to us.
Yeah, and I think that you've answered all of my questions.
You need to stop talking now, lady.
No, but I still got to ask the one, like, I guess I tell people it's our essential question from an academic.
Okay.
Right? It's how do you build great ancestors? And like I say, I think you've answered the question, but just if I give you like that direct question, that's a hard question to answer, I think. Because but go.
Not me.
This is me sitting back.
I think every time you heal from something that's happened to you, you have built strong ancestors. Because you're not perpetuating the pain over and over again.
Right.
Whatever the pain is.
Wow. Okay, say that one more time for the people. They got to get it because I was Puff Daddy over here. Take that.
I said every time that you heal, you are growing great ancestors, right? Because you don't perpetuate the pain.
That's amazing.
So whatever you're healing from, even if it's healing from not allowing myself to make the right choice about my career, right? I healed that. I didn't stay stuck in it. Well, I spent school all this time and now I got to just go ahead and stay being miserable over here in this courthouse. No.
Right? Yeah.
I healed that. That's what my mama did, and she wasn't happy doing that.
Right.
So she passed that on to me, and I struggled, and oh my gosh, I love my mother, but oh my gosh, right? And so I said, no, I'm only going to do what I love. Right.
Yeah.
So then guess what I teach my kids?
Do what you love.
Only do what you love.
Do what you love.
They have permission to not like things. They have permission to fail at things.
Right.
So they figure out, because you won't fail at the thing that you love. You will not fail at it, I promise.
Right. Yes, exactly. Yes. And Kate, I'm gonna put my hand up. This is me putting the hand up, and I think that's what's missing right now.
Yes.
We don't let kids fail anymore. You don't let them fall. Like I remember last week, Omri's riding the bike. We go on the walks right now. I walk in the middle of the street, because Black Lives Matter. And I'm 350 plus, so I'm not getting proper treatment if I engage, right? And some of my neighbors, even though I pass by their homes at 7:40 in the morning, multiple days a week, they still look at me like they've never seen me. And I try to wear the same clothes, right? Every time.
You the same size, right? You ain't never changed size, right?
Like, look, I ain't lost but like 3 ounces in 2 weeks. So my clothes ain't fitting any better, but I go outside and I got I like to call it, now people, they don't think I'm getting on myself. I just, I like cracking jokes. So I'm outside looking like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man in this Adidas pullover. I'm the Black Michelin Man with this top on, and I got on bright red shoes. You cannot miss my big black body, right? And I passed by this house on the corner twice on my route home, right? On my way out, on my way in. And this lady just she's just staring at me like I was about to steal something. I'm like, heifer, I don't want your stuff. I live down the street from you.
This time you might want it though.
like, I live literally at the end of this cul-de-sac. We live in the same neighborhood. That means
we're doing something similar.
Something similar, right? But she's staring at me, and I'm just like, oh, I can't even imagine. So we, just processing those thoughts. So I'm thinking about like failure. So Omri's riding down the street last week, and he decides he's riding his bike. He decides he's gonna make this sharp turn. And I'm like, boy, you ain't got it like that. You are not Dave Mirra. You don't have it like that. So he makes this turn, pow. And now, the coach in me, and I was raised by a man who grew up on a tobacco farm in North Carolina. You're going to get an immediate response from me. Get up.
Get up. You be all right. Dust yourself off.
Right. Because I'm thinking, okay, we got to get up. But the other part is we're in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
So if a car comes around this corner, they're not going to see your little brown butt. You're going to get run over. I said, son, get up. People hear me, because they come out in the garage and they start looking to hear my loud voice, oh, somebody's yelling at this little child. I got to get this boy ready.
Yeah.
I got to get him. He's 8, but I got to get him ready. We don't have time. You got to get up. You got to stand tall and fight.
And that's what boys are missing. That's where kids are missing, right?
Right.
So my daughter's a type 1 diabetic, and she got diagnosed at 8. And we've never treated her special, right? We modify our life, because it needed to be modified, right? But we never treated her special. And so she turned 17. Well, she was 17. She graduated from high school early, and she wanted to study abroad in Spain during her, the gap semester that she was not in school. And I had friends who were like, "You're gonna let her go? She's type 1 diabetic." I was like, yeah, and she's always going to be one. She has to learn to live with that.
Right.
Learn to deal with that. She has to learn how to be on her own with that.
Right.
So I have to let her fail. Right. Even if fail means a hospitalization, right?
Right. She got to learn.
I don't want that. We've trained her not to do that. We've let her go other places, here or there. Nothing that is, a 7-hour plane ride.
Right.
Across the ocean, but it was required.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If not now, at some point, it was
Right.
required that I let her fail with her own disorder that she had to learn how to own, because she was going to live with it. She's going to live with it for the rest of her life.
Right. Yes.
So, we have to, as parents, learn how to let go and let them figure things out.
Right.
That's the only way they learn. That's the way you learn. The only way I learn is to actually figure it out on our own. And hopefully we have parents like you who are safety nets that can say, get up because your car can run you over.
Yeah. Right.
And a parent like me that says, honey, you're going to go across seas. Make sure you have your insurance. Make sure you know what MD you're going to go to. Make sure you have all these things in place. So I'm sitting here giving her all the recipe and the rules and the map to being healthy. It becomes her choice to actually follow it.
Right.
It's like, because your son's choice to actually get up. He could have just laid there.
He could have just laid there.
But you gave him the roadmap of how not to get hit by a car.
Exactly. Get up.
And when you get hurt, you still got to keep going.
Right. Get your butt back on that bike and keep pedaling.
Keep pedaling. It's okay. And so, yeah, I mean, if we really took that stance and really thought about our children in that way that we equip them, we don't just send them out, we equip them, and then we let them fail, and we just there to pick them up, put them back on the bike, and keep going. We could actually heal a lot of what's happening in our children. But again, you said, how do we build great ancestors? If I haven't dealt with my own pain, my own issues, then when I see those same issues in my child, I don't handle them well then either.
Right, because you don't know how to do it. You haven't done it.
You ain't figured it out.
Right. Yes. You're right. You're absolutely right. That's true. I had a conversation with my mother. Oh, what was this, last year? My son graduated from Grand Canyon.
Congratulations.
Shout out to the other institution in the greater Phoenix area. Here I got
Phoenix even?
Well, look, I got my look.
You better do Arizona State.
Shout out to Coach Herm Edwards.
That's right. He came to the greatest school in the country.
The Global Sports Institute, or whatever it's called. They do some great work out there. Anyway, so we were at Grand Canyon, and I was having a conversation with my son about what was it? It was about a 200-year plan, right? And so the concept of building this 200-year plan. So 200 years from now, what does life look like for your descendants? Right. And I told my mother about it, and then she and I talked briefly. She said, well, where in the world did you come up with that? And it was at that moment that I realized we never had that type of conversation.
Right.
And it wasn't an indictment against my mother. But why would she have the conversation like that if her people didn't think about that?
Exactly. Right. I mean, but that's what we're talking about.
Right. And that's how we got to this conversation, like with the ancestor arc. How 200 years from now, when I'm the ancestor,
right?
What do I want the people who are attached to all of this awesome from 2020? Just this is just awesome. This a whole lot of brother. But that's where the question really came from, and that's because we started developing this in the summer, because we doing things, and so I was like, well, we got to ask people how they do this, because what you do, you know what I mean, like what you do matters, we think it's so awesome. Go ahead.
Yeah, sometimes we don't spend enough time, again, sitting with ourselves, analyzing, and then not just analyzing, but fixing it.
Right. Yes.
You got to fix it. So I could analyze, I'm going to stay in this career because my mom stayed in her career, even though she really wanted to do something else. Okay. I know why, but if I don't ever do anything about it, I have not changed my family tree. I have not changed my ancestry at all. The minute I change my ancestry and I realize it is okay to change careers and it's okay to do something different, then I can now teach my kids how to do it, because guess what? I did it. Exactly.
Yes.
Right? Most parents, what they want to do is just live vicariously through their kids.
They want
their kids to change something that they didn't change in themselves. Right. And they can help their kids get there because they don't know how to do it.
Right. Yes.
It's what, the downfall, I'll stop talking, but the downfall of one of the barriers for first generation students. Right. So I'm on a college campus and we have a large population of first generation students. And it's not because these students aren't smart. That's not why they're failing.
Mm-mm.
It's because they have no one to show them the way that sits with them at 3 o'clock in the morning, like a parent can.
Right.
When I was in college, my mother had her PhD, so I could be like, Mama, girl, go in there, get your seat and get out of that class. Stop acting crazy, you know?
Right.
Like, supposed to graduate with a C, go. Right? When I'm first gen, I said that to my mom with her mom. My mom, my grandmother wanted my mom to have straight A's because she thought that was the only way she could stay in college. Right? So the pressure from my mother was so great. I didn't have that pressure because my mom realized C's get degrees, or they C's get degrees, I guess. You know, she realized that the pressure doesn't need to be on. So she didn't put the pressure on us.
Right.
And so for my kids, and then she put pressure on to stay in a major, get the major and get graduated, right? But for my kids, I'm like, honey, if it takes you 5 years, it takes you 5 years. Just figure out what you want to do.
Right. Figure it out. Right. Figure it out. See that, and that's powerful. I think that's absolutely powerful. And I say all that because it's powerful. You know, it took me, it took me 17 years to graduate from college. And it wasn't because I didn't have the aptitude, obviously.
Right, obviously.
It wasn't that. My priorities were all kind of jacked up, but I had some stuff I hadn't dealt with.
Right.
And I compounded, you know, and I was a father, a teen father. And so there's some things I needed to do. And I was a horrible father. And so you reconcile with those things until you deal with the pain.
Right. Until you deal with the pain.
Right. And so I think, and that connects to like one of my next questions and related to COVID. And then as we roll through this speed round, for me, when COVID-19 hit, I got to be honest, and somebody's going to be upset about me saying this, I was excited. Now, I was excited for a lot of reasons. I was excited because it gave me time to connect with my 8-year-old. It gave me time to attempt to reconnect with my 22-year-old daughter, because I hadn't spoken to I'd been estranged from my child for years. And COVID-19, everybody sitting down.
Perfect.
Me and big girl, we text every couple of days, and I'm as happy as I've been in a long time. And she's probably my twin, my kindred of all of my children. Jocelyn Murray is probably the most like me.
How beautiful is that?
It's awesome. So like I said, I've been cool. I've had a great time with COVID. Look, degrees, you keep all that. I reconnected with my child.
So even in that, like right there, and the beautifulness is not the time that you've been able to spend with her. The beautifulness is that you actually corrected the experience.
Exactly.
Right? Some people don't realize that it only takes one moment to change your entire life. Like literally, you made a decision, and in that moment that you picked up the phone, text, whatever, and said, baby girl, let's talk.
That's it. I sent word. She sent me a message. And that's
it. And again, you change your ancestry right then.
Exactly.
Right? She no longer can say, I have an absent father. So you healed that for her. She healed it for herself by responding to you. And now she's changed her family history. Right. Even though she ain't got no family to have a history with yet.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And so I think it's absolutely beautiful. And I think that's one of the ways, like you said, that's how you build them. And I think that, this thing, when you get busy, because we keep telling that lie, like everybody's got a different time frame. Like the 86,400 doesn't apply to everybody.
Right. Everybody.
Like, oh, you got a different, okay. All right, my bad. I forgot you got 36 hours in your day. So and I'm just going to fast forward because I know that you've given me so many gems to read as a book wise. So I got to ask, because the people need to know, what are you reading? Throw them books out there, Doc. Come on.
So I've taken like another, I don't know, I'm doing stuff crazy right now.
That's good.
So I'm reading probably 4 books right now. One is Predictably Irrational.
That sounds like me.
I love that book. It's by an economic behavioralist. So he has, he has some kind of PhD in economics and a PhD in psychology.
Ooh.
And he's talking about how we kind of get people to buy things. And the way that you make decisions is from a very irrational place, but it's predictable. Like that's how marketing people get shit and things like that. So I'm reading that about, how we make a decision, how we come to decisions. I also took a step back and I'm reading the ISIS papers. By Frances Cress Wessling. And she's a psychiatrist, or she was a psychiatrist. She's passed away a few years ago. That was very much into race and sociology of race. Amazing woman. And so I'm reading her book, and that book's probably 30 years old. I'm also reading The First Black Millionaires.
Ooh.
And so it's basically about the first 6 Black millionaires right after slavery and how did they come into their wealth. So is that 3?
That's 3. I like
There's another book.
Ooh, The First Black Millionaire. See, people need to know these things.
Yeah, so those are the 3 that are on top of my. There's another one, but I can't think of what it is. I haven't even really dove into that one yet. But
okay.
So those are the 3 that are on my coffee table.
See, that's awesome, and I tell people this. I just said this in the last person I was speaking to, and I think I probably said this to you before. And if I didn't, let me say it now. I stopped getting so like bent out of shape about going like I'm gonna get this book and I'm gonna go cover to cover.
Oh, no.
Right, because I start thinking about it in this context. I was raised in the church. Nobody sits and reads the Bible cover to cover on Sunday or Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Because you can't do it, but you can read this chapter.
Right.
And you can read, you can read this chapter and you can get that verse.
Yeah.
And you might be able to get to like 15 other lessons. But I think that also shapes the way I think in terms of education. If I can sit down and have a conversation with Dr. Ross Alexander, and I can sit down and I can talk to Tammy. Shout out to Tammy Hines, my favorite psychotherapist.
She's my favorite too.
My absolute favorite. Now she's probably half my size in height.
Like literally. Literally half your size.
Half my height, Tammy. I said height. She's gonna try to slap me through the phone if she heard me say size. She's not as big as me. There's not a lot of people bigger than me. But anyway.
Huge.
If I can get the room with you and I can get with like you just said, the predictably irrational guy, and I can sit in the room with some other like scientific type of person, and I can get in the room with an English person and all these folks, that's a pretty doggone good education.
Yeah, you're doing pretty good.
Right? I got a shot to figure out what it is I need to know. Right?
Yeah.
And I think that I know that for me, that came from like the Bible and a bunch of experiences from screwing up and failing forward and failing backwards and sideways.
All the failures.
But I think that's kind of like, that's the thing, and so I think that it's awesome to share like what people are reading, because I'm going to put that in the notes and share. We get books. We got books.
We got books. Yeah, you got books. Yeah, we got a few.
We got books. Race After Technology. We're going to read some. Yes, we talk about race. We got to, because it's obvious we need to. And we're going to talk about church and so on and so forth. But let me ask you these questions. This is going to be the rapid fire, the hard questions. Okay. Get ready now. Come on. We're going to find out what they was listening to when UNLV was running things in Vegas. The Running Rebs.
Running Rebels. The Stacey Augman and all them dudes. Larry Johnson.
Now, I tell you what.
Greg, Anthony Hunt?
Anderson Hunt. And
Greg Anthony.
Look, I remember that team. That was like back in the day. That was my first trip to Vegas, was like in 1990. My uncle moved from San Diego to Vegas. So, shout out to Circus. Love you. So we went, but anyway, let's find out. Here we go.
Okay. All right.
Top 3 lists.
All right.
All time top 3 rap group duo. Pick one. Either way, you can go group or duo.
Okay.
Or do you want to go artists? Now the
I want to
artist
go.
recorded.
Okay, so you got Wu-Tang Clan.
Wu-Tang. Okay.
Then you got Goody Mob.
Ooh, who's that peeking in the window?
And 3. So I'm from Vegas, and I really like the, gangster rap. So I guess Scarface probably is my next one.
Ooh. Shout out to my people in North Vegas.
Yeah, Scarface is probably my mom really didn't like my music.
Yeah, see. I tell people all the time when the kids come in, I saw one of my students this year had a doggy style album t-shirt. I'm like, look, you don't know nothing about that life.
When I say nothing about that life, like I used to love NWA growing up too,
Right.
but like they're like popular now. Like they were popular, but in a bad way. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm like, whatever. Ice Cube was not on Disney movies back in the day. Like let's just keep it real. He wasn't on Disney movies.
Oh, people don't know. They
They
either they don't know, don't show, or just don't.
I don't care about what's going on in the ghetto. in the hood.
These kids have no idea. All right, here we go. Favorite foods, top 3 favorite foods or meals.
I love Thai food. So
Really?
Tom yum is my favorite. I love that. Pho is probably my next one, Vietnamese soup.
For sure.
And dressing.
Dressing. Really? Dressing.
And lechon asada. I like that too.
Really?
I had that before. Yeah. I eat everything.
Okay, now this is a spin-off question off of this food now, because I had this conversation with somebody, and I'm trying to remember who it was. How old does the person have to be for you to eat a potato salad?
Oh, they gotta definitely be older than me.
Okay.
That's for sure.
Okay.
I probably would be in the 60, 65 years old. They gotta be up there. They gotta really know about the potato salad. Like,
right. Yeah, that was Dr. Jones. I was talking to Brandon Jones this morning. That's who it was. Yeah, you need to have some weathered skin.
Yeah, you got to be up there. I mean, I'm 45, so you got to be at least older. Like, I feel like I know how to make potato salad because my big mama showed me how to make potato salad. So if you didn't hang out with my big mama, then
yeah, you got to. Look,
between me and my big mama,
right? Like, see, and Dr. Jones and I, we came up. We said, look, you had to have a connection to a Jerry curl.
Yes, okay.
I'm talking about old enough to go get it on your own connection, not to get the ride. Not
what an S curl was, huh?
Yeah, you had to have that S curl, that leisure curl, the world of curls.
Right, and you have to know what a Jet magazine was, like the real magazine, like a real Jets.
And you had to be able to open. Look, you had to know not to open. Ooh, look, my hands was perfect on that. Like every time, it didn't. Wow, like
you got to know what fashion fair makeup is. If you don't know what fashion fair, if your auntie ain't wore no fashion fair, she cannot make no potato salad.
That's what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Now I know that's a tangent, but look, we got to be real. You can't just be eating everybody's potato salad. We ain't got no time for that.
Or dressing for that matter, like
or dressing. Now who's making? Now what kind of? Now look, that's gonna take. Here's another tangent. We eating Jiffy.
Okay. I love Jiffy cornbread.
Let me tell you what.
I love me some Jiffy cornbread. That is the best cornbread ever. My big mama made it with Alberts. Like you had to have Alberts. That's her thing. But I love Jiffy cornbread. My grandfather, I used to call him Papa Junius, used to tell me, baby girl. No, he called me girl baby. He didn't call me baby girl. Girl baby, that's some sweet cornbread. Don't nobody want no sweet cornbread. I'm like, Grandpa, it's good.
Yeah, we
you'll
got
be all right.
Because now I can go both ways.
I still make.
Do you? Yeah, we. Oh, that's the only cornbread that's coming up out of this house. I'm gonna tell you.
Love me some Jiffy
And the dressing is gonna come from that Jiffy.
And the Jiffy, yeah, exactly.
Look, don't play with us around here. We ain't got time for that. Okay, now look, we're gonna skip that sports question. We ain't worried about that. Let's talk about this. Top 3 favorite restaurants. Now, I know you've been some places.
So my favorite restaurant of all times is really random. My favorite restaurant of all times was a place across the street from campus called Miss Saigon. It was a Vietnamese soup place. Mm-hmm. And they had every variation of Vietnamese soup you could possibly imagine.
Really?
Like literally, you would go in and order the one all the way to, they had 50 different flavors. It was amazing. So that was my favorite. It is no longer there, so I'm a little upset. Wow. My second favorite, like I told you, I like Asian food a lot. Mm-hmm. I went to Thailand last summer, and the W Hotel in Bangkok has the most fabulous buffet of all times. Like, really? Of all times. Yes. See. All times.
I'm like B.A. Baracus when it comes to getting on airplanes. You're going
to come on now. You know I can cure you of that.
You're going to knock me. You're going to knock. Look, I'm gonna need a Valium, some Ativan. I'm gonna need a cocktail to get on that bad boy. You know they don't make them seats for grown folk.
You know what? On international flights, it's very different. Now, American flights are, suspect, but international flights, even though those folks tend to be smaller folks, mm-hmm. their planes are really spacious.
Okay, I'm gonna commit to doing it because I promised myself I was just gonna start living. I'm gonna just leave.
Yeah, you just gotta get on it. You just gotta do it.
I'm gonna leave.
My third favorite place is in Las Vegas. Well, I love Vegas buffets. Like I'm not a buffet person, but I love Vegas buffets. So I will eat at like the Encore buffet is really, mm-hmm. really, really nice. So I love that one. And then there's one in Caesar's Palace. Can't think of the name of it right now. Yeah. But it's really nice too. I think it's Nubo.
Shout out to
Yeah. But my all-time favorite in Vegas is a place. It's one of those steamer places called mm-hmm. Hot Juicy. Oh my God! Like, really? You cannot be dressed up. You got to wear your old clothes now because you're gonna get messy. Mm-hmm. And when I say that seafood is so good. Oh my God, it's great. It's amazing.
Really? See, now Lizette's gonna hear this and she's gonna say, "I ain't never been to Vegas. My husband won't take me to Vegas."
I'll take her to Vegas. Tell her she needs to get on the plane and meet me there.
Look, you heard that? All right, look, I'm gonna tell her because I'll take her, but you know
my people there. I'll hook y'all up.
See that we gotta go, and I told her we gotta go. It's just timing, but we gonna go. What else are we gonna do? Sit around here and do nothing?
Vegas is opening up next week.
Is it really? Look, yes. I'm gonna need a gas mask and a hazmat suit before they get me out this house.
Let me tell you what, you'll be all right, but okay.
We the underlying conditions delegation. All right, here we go.
Throne, he's still in control. So
You're right. All right, last one right here. Top 3 movies of all time.
Boys in the Hood, Menace to Society, and Poetic Justice.
Ooh.
Love and Basketball too.
Love and Basketball.
And Waiting to Exhale. That's one of my favorite ones too.
See.
But I do love Boys in the Hood. That's one of my favorite. And Menace to Society, I love that one too.
See, I know all the words. So I just, yeah.
I was Janet Jackson with them braids and Poetic Justice. I was like, what?
Little Lucky. Oh man, Pac. See, that was a good movie. I thought it was awesome. Like, my boy, Chicago. He was a little different. Everybody got a Chicago in their crew.
Everybody. Yeah, I just love those movies. Yeah.
John Singleton did a great job, man. He doesn't get enough credit.
I know.
He doesn't get rest easy, sir. Rest easy. That's why we got to take care of Spike.
I'm trying to say, right?
We got to take care of Spike.
Because he had my favorite movie for all time. I must have watched School Days 1,000 times. That was one of my favorite movies. And then these other ones.
Yeah, see, Spike doesn't get enough love because everybody think he's crazy. He is.
Well, all the artistic ones are. They get a little off.
Where else are you
Okay.
coming up with all these ideas?
We still love them, you know.
Right.
Oh,
Think about how quiet they had to be to come up with that stuff.
right. Or high, one of the two. No, I'm just joking.
Well, hey,
Just
look, it's still
like, I
this
didn't say you're high. I'm just saying.
peace, the tranquil mood.
No.
That's awesome. Now, let's tell the people, and I'm going to put y'all, don't worry about the website. We putting the website information up because we need people. Look, mental health matters. Take care of your people. Take care of your mentals. As my man Marcel Lynch said, take care of your mentals. Take care of
I
your
love him. He said, I'm just here so I don't get fined.
That's it.
I love that. I love this guy.
That's it. I ain't mad at him. I love it, man. That's so much richness and then just genius inside that man that folks keep missing. They just miss. But so tell folks, social media wise, how they can get you so they can follow some of these likes you make.
I'm a Twitter girl, so it's Dr. Mari, DRMARI Ross, ROSS, the @sign, whatever it is on Twitter. Instagram, I have an account, but don't know what that is. That's pretty much it. Just Twitter.
That's all right. Get Dr. Mari Ross on the Twitter @Dr. Mari Ross. Get it right. We'll get it hooked up. That's MARIROSS. Get your mind right, people. And if you can't get your mind right, DM Dr. Mari Ross.
Yeah, we'll help you out.
Yeah, we get you hooked up. Doc, we love you in our house.
And I love both of you. You guys are amazing, amazing couple.
We working, we fighting, we got some harebrained ideas coming that's gonna shake up the shake up.
Whole world.
It's coming. We coming. So all you people worry about that status quo and complacency, you better pump your brakes. We coming. Well, Doc, let me let you get to your weekend. We appreciate you. We love you. If you need us, call Tammy.
Feed Lizette, please. Make her some dinner.
I'm going to go in there and get my wife so hooked up. She's going to be asleep before 10 o'clock.
I love it. All right. Well, I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.